President Donald Trump got into a heated battle with Colombian President Gustavo Petro this weekend, and it looks like the United States was in fact the victor in all that.
It all started when Colombia refused to accept deportation flights from the U.S.
And as a result, Trump threatened Colombia with the following: 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the U.S., with the threat of 50% tariffs if Colombia didn't accept the deportation flights, travel ban, visa revocation on Colombian government officials, allies, and supporters, visa sanctions on party members and their families, supporters of the Colombian government, enhanced CBP inspections of Colombian nationals and cargo, and lastly, banking sanctions. Trump meant business.
The Colombian president sent out a very lengthy tweet in response to Trump, where he wrote in part, "You can use your economic power and arrogance to attempt a coup, as you did with Allende. But I will die standing by my principles. I've endured torture, and I will endure you. You may kill me, but I will survive in my people who existed long before yours in the Americas."
But after Colombia caved to Trump's demands, the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said in a statement on Tuesday, "Today's events make clear to the world that America is respected again. President Trump will continue to fiercely protect our nation's sovereignty, and he expects all other nations of the world to fully cooperate in accepting the deportation of their citizens illegally present in the United States."
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez complained about Trump's methods, writing on X, "To punish Colombia, Trump is about to make every American pay even more for coffee. Remember, we pay the tariffs, not Colombia. Trump is all about making inflation worse for working class Americans, not better. He is lining the pockets of himself and the billionaire class."
Senator Tim Scott, on the other hand, wrote, "If a country like Colombia shows resistance to repatriation or enables illegal immigration to the United States, that country should be met with the full force of our economic and national security tools. I wholeheartedly support President Trump's efforts to secure the border." Because the gist of it is that after Trump made that declaration, yes, the president put out a long and colorful statement.
Very colorful.
We read the kind of most defiant part of it,
Yeah.
but there's also part of it where he said, like, "I love the black neighborhoods of
That's right.
America."
Well, he also described or implied Trump was a white slaver, I think,
It was
which is interesting.
fascinating. But the long and short of it is, despite his "I will resist you from hell's heart, I stab at thee," they're going to send their own planes to pick up the people. And to be clear, these deportation flights, according to mainstream reporting, was approved by the Colombian government. Then, I think while they're in the air, the Colombian president said, "Oh, actually, we're not taking them because we don't want our people on military planes." And then Trump went ballistic and said, "You listen here, you're taking these people, we're doing all these things." And he said, "I will spite you, I will fight you, but also, actually, we'll just send our planes to get them."
Yeah,
so it seems like a big win for Trump, actually.
Well, it does, and I think Mr. Petro has done a very big disservice to the idea of a sort of, if you want to call it, an international resistance to Trump. Because he has done the classic thing of bringing a knife to a gunfight. He was throwing all these shapes. The tweet that you're referring to included some very, very belligerent language. Some of the stuff that we read was all about, "I will never give in and I will fight for my people." And he promptly turned tail and surrendered within about 6 hours. And I was looking on social media this morning, and even some people who are, I think, by implication, somewhat sympathetic to Petro, are complaining that his purported concern for the dignity of these Colombian deportees lasted a few hours and then was abandoned. So I think he looked foolish. He's a former guerrilla fighter. Apparently he is prone to these intemperate statements.
Very low approval ratings.
Very low. So he's not negotiating from a position of strength, to say the very least. And the problem, I think, for people who are resistant to Trump and resistant to Trump's beliefs and resistant to Trump's tactics this is a victory for Trump, clearly, and it puts wind in his sails, and it makes it easier for him to argue that those kind of tactics that he used are effective.
And it makes it easier for him and his defenders to argue that Trump is taken seriously in a way that Joe Biden was not, between this and the successful negotiation of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And look, I agree with AOC. We don't want to do tariffs. She's exactly right. And she's saying things that free market economists say too. So when you impose tariffs, you're shooting them in the foot and yourself in the foot, because the American consumers are the ones trying to buy those goods and are going to ultimately pay more for it. So it is absolutely the case. We do not want to do tariffs. That hurts our people too. It raises the prices of everything at a time where inflation is the number one concern of Americans. So we don't want to do it. What Trump is, the Trump kind of approach to foreign policy right now is to use them as a foreign policy tool to get some, not because they're good in and of themselves. That's the strong medicine, as it were, that has negative gastrointestinal side effects for us or something.
Sure.
But we got to do it. And the president can do it, has very broad authority, too broad in my view, just for the office of the presidency to be able to declare tariffs is something I would actually leave to Congress in my ideal envisioning of how, along the lines of what the founders intended, probably. But he can do it, and he has used it diplomatically, effectively.
Yeah, and that also, as you say, buttresses the argument that tariffs can be used as a negotiating tactic. I just want to point out one thing before we wrap this up, which is it is not new at all for Colombia to accept flights of deportees from the United States. In fact, over the past 4 years of the Biden presidency, there were about 400 such flights. So they typically have about 2 flights a week. What seems to have happened here is that this pretty left-wing leader of Colombia took exception to the use of military planes, argued that was inherently damaging to the dignity of the deportees. This fracas ensued, and the Colombian came out on the losing side of it, and that's
and these were, and also to be clear, these were deportees. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, this is not. We didn't go door to door looking for any old illegal immigrant. These are people who committed other crimes, in some cases serious crimes, and are being deported for that reason, I suspect.
I'm not sure really whether we have had a breakdown of that. Trump has said he's focused primarily on people who've committed crimes, but I'm not sure in this case.
Up next, President Trump's controversial statements about Palestinian refugees who want to return to Gaza. We'll explore that subject with a guest. Stay tuned.